Studies have shown that the average American woman owns 7 pairs of jeans. So this is showing that people are just buying for shopping therapy because you don't really need 7 pairs of jeans to survive. Yet, on the other hand, 1 out of 10 of these women are taking antidepressants. So, what's the problem here? From the beginning of time, humans have been constantly striving to reach a common goal, which is happiness. Happiness has been left vague by many scholars over the centuries, so that can be defined by each individual to find their own source of self-fulfillment. But from the rapid urbanization of the industrial age, from the early 1900s until now, there has occurred many patterns in which people believe that to be the American dream, the lifestyle ridden in consumerism that is thought to ultimately bring happiness. And with the rise of technology as a cultural norm, the next generation, are training our brains to accept instant gratification, a dangerous habit. Generally, Americans have had the cultural mindset and behavioral patterns that we expect satisfaction to only come from external elements. We, as a dissatisfied people as a whole, tend to attach ourselves to material possessions, and every time we are feeling like we're lacking something in ourselves, we return time and time again to our material possessions. These habits, which may be phone addiction, attachment to wealth, habits we display in our relationships, patterns of misguided necessity, they are all really misguiding the path to our higher goal of happiness. And true internal happiness, in my opinion, is simply reaching inner peace, a sense of contentment and self-fulfillment within us, completely separate from our outer worlds. It's partially true, though, referring to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in order to reach inner peace, one might argue that you first need to acquire the first few rungs of the ladder: basic needs, shelter, good food, hydration, and to have a stable cash flow for getting these basic needs is important for the average human, because before they can be happy. But when you look at a highly successful person that is unhappy and a dirt poor person that is content within themselves, we can relate to the Buddhist teachings that discuss that by completely changing the way you view a situation, your perspective can change entirely. If you are in touch with your inner wisdom and practice being grateful for what you have, you can exchange a negative outlook into a positive one. It is possible to attain happiness and inner peace by changing your viewpoint and simply practicing gratitude for what you have, instead of constantly reaching out for something more to fill your dissatisfaction with your life. But as Buddhist monk Matthieu Ricard says, training your mind to think this way and to control the flow of thoughts you have, it takes a lot of time. Meditation is a way to train your mind, but yes, meditation takes time, as well as determination, self-endurance, and discipline. Ricard also points out the difference between happiness and pleasure. Pleasure is something we're capable of when we are given these bodies. Sensations such as food and sex and the stimulation of our 5 senses, but these pleasures don't bring permanent happiness. They only bring eudaimonia, which is the Greek word for superficial, fleeting, or temporary joy, which is important to separate from our inner contentment, because we really can't rely on this body or external factors that bring us daily joy into the acquirement of our deeper needs. Meditation is really just clearing your mind and being metacognitive by slowing your mind down so much that you can observe the thought enter your mind, you can focus and meditate on that thought, and then observe it leave your mind. This practice helps you control the negative thoughts and redirect them towards positive viewpoints. The Buddha taught that suffering is caused solely from desire, and so you must let go of attachment before moving deeper into a spiritual practice of understanding. Desire will lead to dissatisfaction, which will lead to suffering always. So letting go of material objects is the first step to finding happiness. According to Bhante Gunaratana, in his novel 8 Mindful Steps to Happiness, One of the highest sources of happiness is the happiness of renunciation, the spiritual happiness that comes from seeking something beyond worldly pleasures. The classic example is the joy that comes from dropping all worldly concerns and seeking solitude in peaceful surroundings to pursue spiritual development. A higher source of happiness can also come from spiritual or religious rituals, and being generous and helping others is also an effective way to uplift your spirits and find a higher form of happiness and self-fulfillment. So when you feel stuck in a never-ending cycle of attachment and dissatisfaction, the first step is always to recognize the habits. So to look inward and not outward to find inner peace is the only truth in the eyes of a Buddhist, and I recommend it for all humans. As the Dalai Lama once said, human happiness and human satisfaction must ultimately come from within oneself.